Right now for inclusion-based solutions, everybody. We got our guests in the building. Dustin Sutton is here with Bcrn Network, Julia Lachey Israel from DEI and Belonging, the head of KW, and last but not least, Kimberly Brown, president of AAREP in LA. Welcome, everybody.
Yay! Thank you, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Powerhouse U.
We are excited. We've got our people rolling in, and we are excited to have this conversation.
Yes, we are.
Who you want to start with, Jackie? Because we definitely want to make sure that we really start this thing off right and get this ball rolling. Let me just start by saying and telling everybody, welcome and thank you so much for joining. Jackie and I had the pleasure of speaking with these esteemed guests in our pre-event. And when I tell you, we almost took that thing to an hour and a half. The energy and synergy around this topic is so real. That lets us know there's so much to be discussed and talked about. And so we're happy you guys are here. And once again, thank you guys for joining us. It's definitely an honor.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, so I could start. I was over here writing. So again, thank you everybody for coming and joining us on another episode of Powerhouse U. I am so excited for this panel and the people that I was able to get together and join us on this, and especially it being my first one. I am so grateful to be joined by Kim and Julia and Dustin, and 100% grateful for my co-host right now, Sean. We have been working hours trying to put this together for you guys because we understand how important it is to have representation in the industry from all perspectives. And we wanted to talk to the leaders of these groups, the activists, the people that saw the problem and decided to be a part of the solution. So we're just going to sit here and give you guys a history of the background of commercial real estate and how to include African Americans in decisions that are made on the table in the C-suites, and what we could do to get more people that are like us included in the industry, and you know, this not just be a now thing, but try to figure out how to keep the wheels turning, and you know, we all work as one wheelhouse and grow together and increase representation. And then too, so what I want to do right now is give all three of our panelists 2 minutes to introduce themselves and give their backgrounds, and we're going to go from there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start with Dustin, since he's the only man on the panel. So we're going to start with you and we're going to go from there. Okay.
All right, great. Well, hey, first of all, thank you so much for putting this on. Preparation has been really exciting, and as you're aware, like there's not many topics that are more important or near dear to me than this one. So thank you very much. Hello, everybody. My name is Dustin Sutton. I'm in San Diego, California. I'm the director of strategic partnerships for a real estate technology company called Local Logic. They're based out of Montreal, but I'm also the founder of an organization called the Black Commercial Real Estate Network. Founded 2 years ago. We already have over 800 members across the United States and in other countries. And one thing that really, I've been in commercial real estate for 16 years or so. And one thing that stands out for you know, this journey and what's happening is how many well-intentioned people are working in their own arenas and how we're all coming together to solve these problems. And so I'm really excited to have this discussion with the rest of the panelists. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, can you hear me? Yep. Thank you so much for that. We're going to get back to you. Miss Julia Lachey, your turn.
Yes. Hi. Good afternoon. At least here it is. I know it's still morning on the West Coast for y'all. I am in Texas today. I am Julia Lachey Israel. I'm the head of diversity, equity, and inclusion for Keller Williams Realty International. And I've been a licensed broker for 22 years now. And my contribution to this conversation is going to be a little bit different than my esteemed colleagues, Dustin and Kimberly. I have not worked in the commercial arena for any of those 22 years, but the industry that I really focus, the area of expertise that I focus on is inclusion. In fact, the real title of my job is inclusion and belonging. So my contribution to the conversation is just that, people like me who maybe have never dabbled in commercial real estate for whatever reason, and how do we bring people of color, Black people in particular, to the conversation of commercial real estate. So I'm excited to be here to learn from Dustin and from Kimberly and from the other things that we'll hear today. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
And thank you for being here. We totally appreciate it. Miss Kimberly.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. It's your turn, girl.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I am Kimberly Brown. I see a number of familiar faces on here. Just always delighted to speak to the community, to the tribe. And again, kudos to Sean. Kudos when Jacqueline asked me to participate, it was without hesitation. And so I was just sharing with them before the call. Listen, I've been on panels with LA Business, you name it, and national panels, and the engagement around this particular panel has been phenomenal. Their marketing game is on point. So I applaud you both. Also, just want to give a nod to Jacqueline. Jacqueline is the protege of the late William E. Yarbrough Jr., who I know was a Keller Williams broker, as well as just a prominent real estate figure that passed away last December. So the organization that I lead, which I'll mention in just a moment, we move forward in his honor, and his legacy was around increasing representation within the Black community in the industry. So just want to open with that. I know I'm down to 30 seconds. I am by day a commercial real estate broker with Cushman & Wakefield, a managing director. My role is to engage institutional investors, private equity, what we call global occupiers, which are Fortune 500 companies, and sell them on services. So I sell them on brokerage, I sell them on investment sales, I sell them on asset services. So that's what I do. All set, commercial real estate broker. By afternoon, I lead an organization called the African American Real Estate Professionals, the Los Angeles chapter. We are a national network dating back 30 plus years, started in New York. We've got 12 chapters around the country. I'm sort of the front woman for the Federation of Chapters, but LA, we've got about 1,100 folks on our listserv. We're active, we're engaged. Ironically, the late William E. Yarbrough was our immediate past president. Super excited to share, super excited to be here this morning. Thank you.
You are very welcome. And then we're actually going to start. Did you want to say a couple words before I start with Kim? I'm going to start with Kim and work backwards. Did you want to say anything, Sean, real fast?
Well, I wanted you to introduce yourself, a Queen Powerhouse.
Oh, okay. I can do that. Hello, everybody, and thank you for supporting us all on this panel. My name is Jacqueline Harris, a commercial real estate agent focused on multifamily and retail assets in Los Angeles, California. Not only that, I am also the owner and president of Powerhouse U, a platform that I started not too long ago to do exactly what we're doing now, which is connect the people, connect the heads of certain organizations, and try to figure out how to stop talking about the problem and start talking about the solution. So we talk about it from both perspectives. When you talk about the problem, make sure that you up with, and then that's what I wanted to do, and in addition to that, create a platform for a place where our voices are heard, where we could provide education and representation so people know that the commercial real estate industry does exist. And when it comes to learning certain aspects of the industry, you know, they could get a little bit of information from here on Powerhouse U. And what I did was, knowing that this is such a big platform that I'm looking to build, I knew I couldn't do it alone. So I had to definitely call on a partner to help me with my journey, who has been more than amazing in helping it. And then it's so funny because we are in two completely different states, but it is amazing what we have been able to pull off, you know, since we decided to go on this journey together. And I can't say kudos enough to my co-host and partner in this journey, Miss Sean Pinkston. Sean Pinkston, please take the mic and let the people know who you are.
And you mean like talk? All right. I gotta just say, I'm gonna start and say just thank you, Jackie. I'm Sean R. Pinkston from Chicago. I'm also W Commercial and Keller Williams, One Chicago here. Jackie is a millennial in this thing with a mindset and maturity to understand, the sensitivity and the importance of this topic. So much so that she jumped right into a field that she had no experience in whatsoever and just said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start doing interviews. I'm going to start talking to people that are leading these mission-based entities, and I'm going to start having these conversations. And she has had a wealth of success with people honoring her and being present on her platforms to share it, to the point that now we're here today and we've got so much more lined up. So Jackie, kudos to you, first of all, for taking the reins to bring such an important topic and keep it in circulation, because often what we find is that after something happens, there's an uprise, and then before you know it, there's stillness. And so we have to keep the conversations going with people that are really making change. So I do commercial real estate as well. I've been doing it for about 7 years. I've been in real estate overall for about 20 years. This is one of my passions. This is my baby. This speaks to me. So when she asked me, it was definitely a no-brainer. We're in a couple of other groups together as well, and this really just hit home for us. Like she said, sometimes we're up 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because our brains won't stop, because it's just that serious and just that important. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Jackie, for inviting me, and let's give you all what you came for.
And there we go. There's the intros, y'all. Thank you for your patience there. So from here, we are going to go to Kim. So Kim, please give us a little history on commercial real estate, and then we're just going to dive right on into the Q&A from here.
Yeah, how much time do I have? Because there are so many aspects and so many perspectives around it. So just give me an idea just so I can crystallize what I have to say.
For the history of, let's give you about 4.5 minutes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All
You're
right.
welcome.
Okay, so everyone. So my experience in DEI and ESG, which is environmental social governance, with which DEI now rests as this thing is evolving, dates back before these were even terms. So 30 years in the business, 20 years in the supplier diversity space, which means corporations were looking for brokers of color for the past, particularly, I mean, they've been looking for brokers of color or vendors of color or service providers of color for, I'd say, a good dates back to sort of SBA defense back in the 60s, but it really heated up about 30 years ago. About 20 years ago, the establishment of sort of supplier diversity platforms came into view. And so there's been a push to diversify the brokerage industry. So I've got this is a two-part answer. So one is around the industry and the other is going to be around the community. And then I'll tie it in and how where we are now, there's a direct tie-in with our communities of color and what's happening in the industry. And so as it relates to the industry, commercial real estate is broad. It's multifaceted, it's multidisciplined, it's multi-sectored. And in fact, AAREP LA, we had an event. I see a couple of members on the phone. Hey, James Doherty, that's our front man. In fact, we had an event this past spring where we featured 13 tables, and each table had a specific entity. So just to give you all of you, it's bigger than brokerage, right? We've got folks of color in investment management, in asset management, in public-private partnerships, in affordable housing, in office, in industrial, in property management, just across all the sectors, we've got representation. The important part of that is, and so we have seen an explosion in my 30 years. I'm telling you, when I first started in this business, you can count, like, we knew the number of folks in this business. When AAREP LA was formed about 12 years ago, we had started with about 12 of us. We're all still active on the board, but we had about 50 folks, and we're like, wow, there are 50 folks of color in LA in this business. Today, we've identified on our roster, we've got 1,100 folks on our listserv of color. That's the explosion. A lot of it has come into, absolutely, a lot of it, quite honestly, is around affordable housing. And that ties into development, that ties into investment management. The explosion of commercial real estate professionals around affordable housing is a beautiful thing. Here's the thing, and again, I'm forward facing. I get stuff in my inbox constantly with developers just presenting concepts, I've got a network of capital raisers. Ding, 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 ding. That's the magic bullet. It's access to capital, okay? 98.7% of people that control the capital are white males. That just is what it is. And so there's implicit bias, which I'm sure Julia will touch on later. But listen, people are comfortable with who they're comfortable with. But what that means is our communities don't get to enjoy any of that investment. So what you have is, now let's talk about the communities. So you've got our communities of color. I'm a product of South LA. I've seen when my parents moved there, they were one of the first Black families that could move into the neighborhood and then white flight. So, and then I've seen the disinvestment over the years. I've seen some of the systemic issues that Red Line created, and we won't go deep into that because I could hijack this whole call. But so to bring it all, to tie it all in, when you've got redlining, you've got systemic issues. 2020, the murder of George Floyd laid it bare. Now we see it through a different lens. Oh, okay, now we get it, right? You disinvest, you pull investment, you don't, municipalities don't provide essential services to communities. Your schools suffer. Communities are directly tied to the success of schools. Schools suffer, kids don't get proper education. Kids typically don't have awareness of commercial real estate. They're not going to schools. Not saying you have to go to college. We all know that now. But the pathway to this industry has oftentimes been through what school you go to, right? And so our folks don't get to participate in that legacy like legacy people do. Well, fast forward, we're creating legacy. Guess what? That 98.7% capital, we've got folks now that control capital within AAREP, right? We are sourcing, I am putting developers in front of those capital raisers that have those impact funds. We're pulling it all together. There are a lot of amazing folks out here, and I see a couple on this phone that are doing some amazing things. But that's just the perspective of the impact that the community has, why we're here. Affordable housing is playing, or the housing sector, mixed income housing is playing a huge factor in how we move forward, for one, for the benefit of our communities, for the generational wealth component, and two, for getting more folks of color into the industry.
Right. And thank you so much. That I appreciate your answer on that. And then from that, I actually do want to run to Julia, who has mentioned unconscious bias and how communities are suffering due to lack of representation. So can you speak up on that and solutions that you see in regards to it?
Yeah, it's interesting that Kimberly mentioned 98%. Is that what you said? 98%.
98.7.
98. Thank you for that correction. 98.7% are white male. And as you also mentioned, particularly in commercial real estate and other industries as well, it does become really, the access to that capital has a lot to do with who you know, and it's in those circles. And not being able to be in those circles and things of that nature keep us out. People tend to have an affinity for people who look like them, which leaves us at a disadvantage, of course, in even accessing it. But the good news is that particularly through social media and technology, we are able to create networks that we didn't have before, where we're able to engage with people all over the place. Like you all that I'm meeting today, you're in California, I'm in Texas. Yet here we are having a conversation about inclusion in commercial real estate that maybe we wouldn't have had before. Zoom was a common thing to do. So these types of things at least give us access to other people. And it's important to see people like Kimberly and people like Dustin, because that representation matters. We hear that all the time. Representation matters, not only just in real estate, but being able to have a voice, not just being seen, and me being able to see someone. Because any investiture, anything we go to do, it starts with believing that I can do it. And that often is even a lack that people in the Black community have if I've never seen anybody do it. Or if I'm taunted with, well, 98% of them are white men, only white men can do this, right? Without representation of people who are leaders in the community. So one of the things that we, of course, suffer from is the inaccess, of course, of development. But I think the solution is not only the networking, but program-based initiatives. Prior to us going live, Kimberly was talking about a whole bunch of different programs that are out there to expose people, particularly young people, to the industry, and that it is an option. Recently, I was fortunate enough to be able to participate in an organization called Project Destined on the East Coast. And I see you all shaking your heads. And they're partnered with CBRE, and they basically have young people who are sponsored, and they get to have relationships with other leaders who are in the industry to lead them down this career path. And they get to partner with executive speakers and things of that nature. But it's incredibly important when all we've seen is someone who doesn't look like us, who tend to have an affinity for each other, you know, and tend to want to be more comfortable with each other, to actually, one, believe that we can do it. And it's easier to believe that we can do it when I see someone who's maybe sitting at a seat or on a board or president of this organization like Kimberly is, that give me the belief that I too can do it. And especially when we've got all these different programs out there, numerous programs that we just really want to expose people to, so that it is an equal playing field.
But you definitely said a mouthful, Julia, because certainly we talked about this in our pre-call, you can't be what you can't see. And so if we're seeing 98.7% are white males, not only does it show us that we can't do it, but it shows us only a certain class of people can do it. And we have to definitely change that narrative to give the confidence to the people to know it can be done by you and someone who looks like you. So Dustin, I'm gonna kick that right over to you, because that kind of leads into actually talking about the solution, because that's what we're here for, right? We've got the problem definitely down pat. What is the solution, or some tangible steps that you know that we can actually lead into to increase this representation in these areas that we're so much lacking in?
Yeah, well, I would start by saying, and something that I've learned, and it's become clearer and clearer, that the solutions, none of us alone have to pull all the weight. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to carry all the load. There are some fantastic people and organizations that are doing things. And sometimes just taking one actionable step, making one phone call, making one thing can open up a whole world. And you know what? I want to touch on something that Kim mentioned before about the legacies and the schools, because there's a couple of people I see on this call from USD. So shout out to USD, and something that they're doing. They introduced called a real estate diversity initiative that we've been working with. And just from one meeting, or at least that I saw, there was like one meeting that we had, and just talking to young people looking for a place in a career and talking about commercial real estate. They were able to organize 14 young professionals to go to a commercial real estate brokerage firm to visit for a career day. And all these kids are just being exposed to the industry and understanding that it even exists. So I think part of the solution, and I think that's something that we're all doing, are highlighting the successes of people that are already doing it. To your point of you can't be what you can't see. Well, how do we shine a light on people that are doing it? How do we give people a platform to share? Because I mean, it's pretty glaring that, you know, you see sports and entertainment, right? Like, that's where you see like where Black people shine in the media and all. But you know what? There are so many great careers in commercial real estate, and I wasn't aware of it until I actually had an opportunity to peek behind the curtain and say, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe all this stuff from tax, title, insurance, brokerage, property management. I mean, you name it. There is a whole universe. And if we can show people that there's a way that you can have a good life and a productive life and make an impact in the world, then those small steps that we do, just showing people and putting people on a pedestal and opening doors for people, goes a long way. So again, when people talk about like, oh, what can you do for this organization, for this program? I would say the first step as a solution is just get engaged, make the phone call, connect with somebody who's already doing it. AAREP, Reese, Project Destined, all these organizations are doing amazing things. So I think that's always the first step.
Thanks for that, Dustin. That's basically in summation: exposure, connection, and engaging. And it leads us to some of the barriers that actually are putting some of those things out of sight, out of mind, right? Kim, I want to kick it back to you, because you did touch a little bit on systemic policies, which clearly have a lot to do with why some of these things make it a little harder for that to happen. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the things, and I'm going to elaborate on it from a solutions perspective, because again, listen, we all know that, we don't have we've got hurdles to overcome. I mean, our pathway is not the same. And so it's a tougher road. We don't have people in positions to lift us. Our motto is lifting as we climb. Our other one is we're the intersection of the commercial real estate industry and the Black community. So because we now have, and we've now recognized, and we now have this tribe of folks that are impactful, right, on all levels. We've got folks that control capital, that control, listen, there are folks within the like $15 billion impact funds, like their whole with institutions, like, and not just one, but several. And these are people of color controlling these funds. They're looking for investments, right? They're looking for general partners and investment partners, right? And so to create this platform, or to create a space with which all these organizations are doing to get this whole thing partnered up, I will tell you, after every AAREP, every day actually, someone's getting hired. After every event, someone's getting hired, someone's engaging, someone's partnering. So to give you an example, so we've got, 18-year-old college students, right, that are just entering into, that's got an interest. We had a young man that just came to us from Watts, grew up, junior at UCLA on education, not sports, right? Wants to get into real estate. Someone introduced him to me. Next thing you know, I'm partnering up with a senior broker at JLL, right? So that he can mentor him, move that further. He ultimately wants to go in development. Well, guess what? Also gonna pair him up after he's done being mentored by James Malone, gonna pair him up with Leandro Tyberg, who runs Prime Store Development for the past 24 years, so he can shadow that program. So those are the kinds of things that we are doing. One last little component, we're actually hosting an event coming up, and we actually just started the marketing of the event. We're featuring a gentleman by the name of Malcolm Johnson. Malcolm just started started his own fund. And when I say fund, they usually have, so it'll be someone of color. There's these impact funds that these institutions and these other companies are investing in, and it's part of their ESG initiatives. Hopefully everybody's familiar with that acronym. That seems to be the latest acronym, and DEI falls under ESG, right? And so all these corporations and your pension funds, your 401k money, all of that is going, that you have earmarked into a general fund or into real estate, all that's being reinvested, right? So coming out of your community, being reinvested. All that money was going out of your community for investment. Now it's coming into your community for investment through these impact funds. Well, we've got, so there's a fellow by the name of Malcolm Johnson, look him up, Langdon Park Capital. He just started a fund this year. He's already got 150 million under management with several workforce housing apartment communities. And we're hosting him. We're going to feature a waterside chat. Check this out, with another fellow who is the head of capital, who's within the organization, Black. He's the head of capital raising North America for Starwood. Okay, they're going to talk about pathways to access to capital. They're going to talk about how to cultivate an institutional network. They're going to talk to people about how to move the ball and how to access that capital.
That warms my heart, my soul, and makes my toes wiggle. All of that you just said. When I'm telling you, I mean, starting a fund, we were just talking about this, Jackie. A lot of people are asking, where do we get capital? We're in so many groups, conversations, and rooms where we're talking about all the ideas of what we want to do, but how do we get the money? And when you now have someone that looks like us, just like on the other end, you're comfortable with who you want to work with, the inverse is exactly the same. And this makes that an even playing field. So thank you for that and sharing that. We are right in there with you. Jackie, you want to kick the next question over?
Yes, I do. So with that topic in mind, we definitely want to kick it back to Julia. And Julia, the question that we want to ask you is, why is it important that Blacks have representation in commercial real estate organizations and company boards?
Well, in general, I'm of the belief that any organization, any board, any company, any industry needs a diverse group of people, not just for to say, oh, we have a really diverse group, but even just the diversity and background and experience and diversity of thought that people bring to the table. I have experiences and life stories and beliefs and upbringings, and I see the world through a certain lens, that someone else who does not have my individuality might see it very differently. I might think I'm right. They might think they're right, but together, if we have these different perspectives, we're able to reach a broader audience. I don't have all the answers, and neither do they, right? But together with the diversity of, again, not even just racial diversity or gender diversity, but also diversity of thought, experience, perspective, it just makes for a much more well-rounded company. There's all these statistics that exist about what diversity does for a business, right? And so that's just one of the very reasons. And the other reason, like we already said, is so that other people can see you and so you can be a voice. It would be a shame if someone was in the C-suite or president of some company and never thought it was their responsibility to also offer opportunity to other people and give homage to the people who came before us. So aside from just the fact of being diverse and all the reasons to help reach a broader audience, it's important to have representation so that we can be an avenue of opportunity for other people, like Don Peebles and the things that he does for other people in the organizations. Those types of positions and having a seat at the table provide those opportunities for people.
Thank you for that, Julia. That's absolutely correct. If we're not looking at it through the same lenses, we're seeing different perspectives. And if we're never having the conversations to find that medium, to play well in the sandbox, we're always going to have these types of conversations. Points well made.
I think we lost you, Sean. Did
yeah, I think we lost you, Sean.
Uh-oh. Testing. What about now?
Your internet is cutting in and out, it sounds like.
Thank you, Jackie.
But it sounded like what you were going to say was going to be exactly right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah. Okay, so from there, and then we're going to wait for Sean's mic to get back up. So we definitely want to kick it back to Dustin in when it comes to the questions. And what are the differences in areas of overlap in the various diversity and inclusion organizations in terms of their missions, initiatives, and impact?
Oh, well, that's a good one. And also, I touched on that a little bit in the last one, but I'll reiterate some of the points because once I started the Bcrn, and I just created it because I felt alone, really. Like there was in San Diego in commercial real estate. I mean, I really didn't come across any other Black people in commercial real estate. And I was reaching out to other organizations in different cities. And I just thought I was going to create like a coffee group, and because I felt like I wanted to have more interactions with people that look like me and that work in this space. And I was obviously not alone because many people were like, yeah, I feel the same way. I feel the same way. I'm able to connect with so many people. And like I said, it's been 2 years and we have over 800 members. And, the things that have come out of this and realizing that all the other organizations that have been working on this for years that I wasn't aware of what they were doing or how they were doing it. So it's eye-opening for me and, AAREP and what they're doing and what Kim has been doing. I mean, really astounding work. So more of the chapters that they have and the events they put on, the connections that they make. Reese is one that has more senior level. Project Destined with Cedric Bobo and what they're doing, with the youth and the high school students and even younger. So everyone's doing a little bit different, but the thing that's so amazing about this is that we're all pushing in the same direction. Is that this ecosystem, and maybe and this is my point about just reaching out to somebody, because even if you don't know exactly how to help or what you can do, chances are, if you contact me and there's something that I know AAREP is doing, I'm gonna say like, hey, check out what they're doing, what ULI is doing. They're doing some fantastic things. And so it's all this ecosystem that is not about competition. It's all about collaboration because we're all pushing in the same direction. And it's absolutely amazing to be a part of. And I say to another point here, I want to tell a quick story of something that happened a couple of years ago. Is that I had a call with somebody who was early on in their commercial real estate career, and he wanted to talk about potential options and what he should do. And I was able to connect him with a certain company. He had an interview, and he contacted me back and said, "Hey, man," he's like, "I got an interview. Thank you so much. This is great." And I was like, "Yeah, that's what this is all about." And then he goes, "I never seen this many Black people in commercial real estate in one place before." They talk about the Bcrn. And I said, "I know, it's crazy, right?" And he goes, "I'm starting to feel hopeful about my future in this career." And he said it as like an offhand comment. And when we got off the call, I cried because all the feelings that I had of not having hope, I guess, it was a feeling of like, how am I supposed to do this? I don't see anybody else that looks like me doing this. And to hear somebody say, I'm starting to feel hopeful about my future in this career was all that I needed to hear, to be like, we are on the right path. We're doing the right thing. And if we can make an impact in the young people's lives and help them develop in their lives, then that's what it's all about, and all the organizations as an ecosystem.
Okay, so before we get to the Q&A portion of this, I want to know from all three of you guys, what do you see in the future for all three of your platforms? Kim, you when it comes to AAREP LA, Julia when it comes to DI, and Dustin when it comes to Bcrn. So I'll let you go first, Kim. If you could just take a minute to let you know where your vision is for that.
Sure, of course. So thank you. And again, so AAREP's a national network. And so we've got about a dozen chapters around the country. So I'm going to speak for the national network because again, I am a bit of the front woman for the national network. And Dustin mentioned ULI and some of the trade organizations. Let me just say, since the murder of George Floyd, the tsunami of attention that we have received from around the globe, around the country, particularly from corporate America, right? Because we are seen as a solution. And I think, Dustin, you coined a phrase like the magic Black people, right? And so I have to tell you, so you fast forward now, I have been the gatekeeper, the number of mainstream organizations, including ULI. ULI just sponsored a development tour for us a month ago. So the conversation now is not so much about partnering, right? It's about supporting what we do. Because the way that I see this now, and I've been around the DEI space before it was DEI, before it was ESG, we serve our members, okay? We've got 25 sponsors, 10 are global brokerage firms, you name it, JLL, Cushman, Colliers, CBRE, Lee and Associates, Eastdil Security. Just it goes on and on. Okay, they're looking for brokers, they're looking for talent. We get it. Okay, so that's a byproduct of supporting what we do. That's not our mission. The industry, our mission is to serve our members. What we see moving forward that we think is absolutely phenomenal is we're replicating the legacy network, so to speak. We're now getting our folks on. Listen, I got my daughter interning, Cushman and Wakefield. We're getting our kids on. We're getting other kids on. We're moving the ball for people because, I had a young fellow that I you know him. And I go, listen, can you advocate for this young man? Get him an internship at CBRE. He's like, absolutely, right? So we're moving pieces, but we're serving our membership. We're lifting as we climb. We're the intersection of the Black community. The Black community is vulnerable right now. That's a whole other virtual event. Because of the impact, all the systemic pieces that have us vulnerable to climate risk, that have us vulnerable to environmental injustice, that have us vulnerable to all of this surge of investment that that's coming into our communities, that we're slowly kind of losing control. We all know about the gentrification piece that we need to be focused on because our communities do need some level of investment, but having voices, having these organizations in place to be, listen, when the city council of LA has got a seat and the mayor is looking for a pick, he's coming to AAREP, and he did, right? And those are voices. That's how change is going to happen. It's going to happen at the policy level. And so lifting as we climb, mentoring youth, getting them the next generation, I'm hopeful. I mean, I absolutely see it. The millennials, the young millennials, this generation Z that showed up in COVID, oh, they're not playing. We're going to see this thing shift, and they're getting involved early. We're getting them involved early. The future's bright.
I'm excited for you, definitely. Can't wait to see what we do as an organization. I'm definitely excited. Now, Julia, you next. What do you see?
The question was, what do we see for the future of?
Yes, or the program that you're running. What do you see for the?
Well, so a little bit differently, I think we do serve the entire population of the United States as Keller Williams real estate professionals. So not only internally do we have, I think, a bright future for our agents. The intention really is that you're 100% correct, Kimberly. This reignited or started with the murder of George Floyd. I happen to be from Minneapolis, and this role that I have didn't exist prior to George Floyd. So like you mentioned, a lot of corporations, took on what was popular. The good thing is that for us, it's something that allowed us to bring more exposure to the professionals that we already had, that already existed, right? It wasn't that we didn't have highly skilled commercial agents. It wasn't that we didn't have highly skilled luxury agents. It wasn't that these things didn't already exist for Black people in our company. We were just not necessarily invited, if you will, to participate in allowing the exposure. So the future, I think, I'm glad for the exposure, certainly not glad about what happened, but I'm glad for the exposure that allows us to focus on the exceptional things that Black people have always added to these organizations, and allowing us a space to have the conversation to continue to elevate and grow in that space. And for us, again, it's lifting our agents, lifting Black agents in particular, and lifting all the agents so that we are serving the United States population in a different manner than we were before. Because we all started by saying people in the United States build wealth through real estate. And so our intention is to, one, educate and train and give the resources to our agents so that they can go out and provide that service to the entire United States population.
Yeah, happy to hear that. Thank you very much. Dustin, your turn, sir.
Yeah, well, I would say I give two answers to this. One, I'll be pretty specific on the future of the Bcrn and where I see it going. And once again, it started as it was going to be just a coffee meetup group. I thought it was going to be 5 or 10 people. So the fact that it's grown so organically has been fantastic. And it feels like art, it feels like jazz. It feels fluid, and I like that about it. It's like whatever we want to create from it, whatever our members want to make it, whatever we'll create out of it. I'm excited to see, because it's so beautiful to see people's input and what they want to do and but it all comes back to connection. And that's the main focus. It's how do you connect with people personally, professionally, and help them get to the next stage of their life, not just their career, but them personally as well. So what we've done is we put together an advisory council. We have some very fantastic people that we have on the board that are helping with strategic direction. We're going to have a speaker series next year. We're going to have special discounts for certain services and a vendor portal. I mean, we're having a lot of things that we have on our plate, but more so than anything else, it's all about connection. It's all about, we can continue to make connections with different organizations, different companies, different people, then we're on the right track. Because here's the thing, I like that it's loose, but we all know that things that are too loose fall apart, and we don't want that. So we're putting some guardrails on it, and we're making sure that we create, anybody who's tried to make meatballs before knows that if it's too loose, it's going to fall apart. So we're putting some parameters around it. But I say, like, at a macro scale, and you say, like, what's the future look like? I think, just candidly, we're going to change the world. Like, we're going to make such an impact, and it's hard to say like exactly what it's going to look like. But when you have this many well-intentioned, smart, engaging people that are involved, it's only going to make a positive impact in everybody's life. And we've seen it in so many times when Black people get an opportunity or take an opportunity to be involved in something. I go back to like sports and entertainment and cuisine, all these things. Like, think about all of the contributions we've made to society. And I don't think this is going to be any different. I feel like this time, like in real estate in general, and then you have downturns, now that we're galvanized and we're together, we're going to make such an amazing impact. It's just exciting to be a part of it, and exciting to support the other people that are pushing towards that direction.
And thank you for so much to all of you all for your answers and being involved in the panel. And so at this point, we definitely want to take questions from the people that are in the room. And look, Kim, is it Pimpkin? Do I have your name right? Are you available to I'm horrible, you guys. I see you laughing. Please tell me I said her name right.
Oh,
You
no,
did
that's okay. Don't worry. Don't worry.
You are good.
Listen, y'all.
Hi, nice to meet you, by the way.
And likewise, listen, I'm not in my best. I've been gardening, so I don't, I'm not all beautiful, but listen, I have so many things to say. I don't even know where to begin. Okay, so let's start with yesterday. I'm in the Bay Area, and I was at the Coronet Day on the Bay for Fleet Week. There's probably 300 plus people on a big fancy boat on the bay to watch the airplanes. So I'm counting the number of people who have melanin on purpose. There was definitely less than 10. Now, here's the thing, back to so much of what we're talking about. I made it my personal intention to meet every single person who was Black on that boat. And I consider myself kind of like a civil rights CRE warrior. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just like, I'm gonna be like one of those people down in, Alabama or like Atlanta, like on the front lines fighting for our cause. Cause I've been at it for 30 years, like Kim, doing battle. And then last week I was at a ULI gala. I was counting all the people in the room who mattered to me. And I met some beautiful young people who were from the diaspora. They weren't necessarily African-American. And these people were leaning into me saying, oh my God, I didn't know that there were some people. They were so excited to see other people who looked like or felt like them. And then on last Monday, Black Developers Forum had an event. There was probably a couple hundred people at this event. I mean, it was like a big church sermon, and it was just so refreshing to be in the room with so many people. I just can't even explain, but anyway, I'm happy to be here, and obviously we have a lot of work to do. So again, I'm a warrior person, so I don't know if I'm gonna be rich, but I'm gonna be fighting for the cause. So thanks, Kim.
Yeah, and
May I?
quick, what's your oh yeah, go ahead. I was going to ask Miss Kim P, your profession. You're in commercial real estate. What is your please say your last name for me so these people could stop laughing at me.
It's all right. No, it's Pipkin. It's phonetic, Pipkin. So just because I didn't introduce myself. So I went to Berkeley for graduate architecture school many years ago. Of course, there was only 3 people in my class who were Black. One of them is a multifamily developer here in the Bay Area, and the other one is in Chicago, and we are still in touch. I have a master's degree in architecture and I have an MBA. I was the class valedictorian. I worked for several luminary firms, many of which you know, and I recently, and I'm going to say it, I resigned from my brokerage role at Newmark because, according to the regional guy, he didn't care about DEI and neither did his clients. So I thought, well, I can't be in a place like that if that's the culture you are creating. So I was out. So anyway, I have some new opportunities, but for the most part, I can't work for anybody or be in a space where I'm not supported.
Okay, and I have to say Newmark's a sponsor of AAREP, so hi Newmark.
Finally, finally.
Get it together, Newmark.
Listen, but may I just, I know Kim, and hey Kim, and Kim has helped lead the charge with, there's a chapter up in AAREP Bay Area, and we're actually in conversation with that Black Developers Forum and the leaders of that organization in the state of California, because it ties into this explosion of affordable housing and everything that goes around that. Here's the thing. With the ULIs, the Coronets, the NAIOPs, I just had a conversation this week, for those of you that are familiar with or members of ICSC, which is a retail industry trade organization around retail, a lot of brokers. I know, see James Doherty, he was down in San Diego. They just had their San Diego. They do a huge thing in Vegas, 30,000 people, big conference full of brokers. And so I just had a conversation with some of their national leadership this week. And they were like, listen, we're not seeing our numbers increase. I go, you're not. Because here's the thing. The ULI supports AAREP. ULI is ICSC. They all recognize now, after George Floyd, they're all trying to find the magic Black people, right? As is corporations, right? They now recognize you have to support the tribe where the tribe wants to be. Okay, so they've now come to grips with, we just need to support what you do and build trust, right? Which is a phenomenal thing, because we're replicating a network that's on its way to being equally as powerful.
Thank you for that, Kim. Can you guys hear me okay now?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for that. I mean, you guys were sharing some nuggets. I was back in here talking, could nobody hear me, but that's okay. You're saying the right things. We've got Mallory next, and after Mallory, we have James.
Mallory, are you still available? Okay, I think she put her hand down. James, are you available?
Sure. So I am got the camera on, but I'm gonna go ahead and just turn this camera on. Y'all just gonna see Saturday morning James now. So
Aw.
yes.
Now that's the James.
Look at
Right. So that's the why I was like having the camera down, and he was a little bit fussier
Did
this
he
morning.
RSVP? Did he?
No, he did not.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. You RSVP.
Okay.
Okay, you're a +1.
I did.
Hi.
So I just want to, piggyback off what everybody's saying and stuff. So I did go to the ICSC in San Diego, and it was about 9,000 people, and I walked around, and I think I counted like 15 people with melanin out of 9,000 people. So that was a big thing, and a person who's very prominent out here in Southern Los Angeles, Curtis Fralin. So he was one of the, like literally out of the 15 people, I knew 6 of them. So that's a whole different story right there, walking around. So I was talking to Curtis while I was there, and we was just chit-chatting, and he was like, James, I used to go to, I've been coming to ICSC for almost 30 years now, and he remembered that him and other Black brokers got together and said, it would not look like this, and he was like, unfortunately, it's getting worse. He said it was more representation back in the day. So whatever, needs to be done, because those ICSC conferences, deals are getting done right there in the lobby, in the elevator, at the bars at night. A lot of deals are getting done. And like you were saying, people like to do business with people, who they are familiar with. So now I've been going to ICSC now for like 8 years in a row. Took off 2 years because of COVID. So I'm gonna go back in this year. But when I'm just going there, just getting to know people, people feel familiar. Unfortunately, I'm like one of many people, so they get me confused with other tall Black guys in the room out of 40,000 people. And I'm like, no, that's not me. No, that's not me. But anyway, how you doing? So every single group like this, Kim will tell you, I'm full-fledged ahead. I was a support every single last group I could get in contact with that to help to move the needle. Because representation matter. I think somebody said that earlier about, our kids just don't know about the commercial real estate field. And anybody who ever heard me talk on a panel, I always tell this little story, and I'm sorry, I'm going long-winded right now. But I got introduced to commercial real estate by, why do I always forget the name? Strictly Business. It was a horrible movie that came out in the 80s called Strictly Business with Tommy Davidson. And the guy was brokering a deal, working on selling the bank building. He played in the Cosby Show. So that right there made me interested. I was in middle school, and I was like, what is this guy doing that he changed this whole trajectory of so many people's lives by closing one deal? And I was kind of interested in real estate. Like, oh, so that's commercial real estate. So I wanted to get in commercial real estate. And when I came out of college, I went to Morehouse College. They had one commercial real estate firm to interview, and they took one person out of Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark, and Morris Brown. Every year they took one person out of those 4 schools. So it took me about 7 to 8 years to get into commercial real estate. And next year, April 2023, I'll be in real estate altogether for 20 years. So that'll be my 20th year anniversary. And now I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm one of the top real estate brokers in South LA. And people are like, oh my God, this is like an overnight success. So I'm going on my 20th year.
Next panelist.
Telling you.
I'm like, how can this be overnight when I'm going on my 20th year in real estate? I don't understand that. But kudos to everybody. Jacqueline Harris, I'm following you, everything. Anything else you need, let me know. Sean, we already talked, so we just set that up. So let's do this.
Well, James, shout out to Tommy Davidson getting you into the game.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. And if I could add a little story to that. So at our signature breakfast, at our market forecast breakfast, we had James as a panelist. And yes, you do want James as a panelist, Jacqueline. Let me tell you how fearless. We're sitting at the City Club on the 58th floor. You got all of our sponsors there, which are all the market leaders and all the CEOs of these brokerage firms that flew in for our breakfast. James called him out. James was on the stage. He was like, yeah, when I came out of Morehouse, I interviewed, y'all wouldn't hire me. So I went on my own. Like, James is fearless. James is serious business.
We like that. We need to have that boldness with us all over the industry.
That's the boldness and the confidence that we need. And I just want to add this, James, a toot toot. You absolutely do want to toot your own horn, because it's that level of confidence that the young people actually need to see. And not just young people, a lot of people that are on this call and joining us live, they are here, and we had an overwhelming response of registrations that we had to actually open it back up, because people want to hear these stories and they want to know about it. These stories are so widespread just amongst us. We need to share it with them. And to your point, Kim, call them out and let them know. And Kim Pipkin, if I may, I just want to say kudos to you for acknowledging your worth and putting it out there that, you know, this is what you need to do. This is how I need to move. If you're not supporting me, I need to go and create these opportunities, right? So I'm loving everything that I'm hearing. I know we're running short on time. We got about 5 minutes, but Mallory, you had your hand up. Do you still want to ask a question? She may not. What I would like each panelist.
There's a couple other hands.
I'm sorry, it was by accident that I had my hand up, didn't realize, but I am just thoroughly just soaking in all that everyone is saying. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mallory. Mallory is here from Chicago with me as well. And one of the things that we're doing as well, you guys were talking about the mentorship. I'm also on the board of CCIM Illinois here. And I was actually the first African-American to be elected to the board 2 years ago. As soon as I got to the board, the first mission that I was on was to actually create a DEI committee, which I was blessed enough to be able to be allowed to do. First mission on that part then was to start the first mentorship program at the local level. Got that going, which is going to be launching this fall. So I'd love to somehow intertwine that, Kimberly and Dustin and Julia and everybody else, James, on this call, with, you know, keeping a circle of learning going for these young people and for people with, you know, melanin to get into this commercial real estate, because it's desired. They just don't know who to ask, where to go, or what to do. I had the same issues that James did. It took me 7 years. I say I've been in commercial set for 7 years. That means I've been saying I'm in commercial and being in the places where commercial people and places and faces are, but actively getting the information and the knowledge, I did not know where to go. So I started creating those opportunities, and eventually people started referring deals. People who had properties started then giving me business. Or should I say I earned their business because I stayed in touch and communicated. It's a similar process with residential. You just got to really get into position in those areas. I started taking my CCIM designation courses. I need to get the knowledge and the information that I need, and so do you. So don't stop. Don't let nobody tell you that you can't do it, because it can be done, as you can see. Okay.
And Sean, can you and James please connect with Graham? Because something's
I actually
there in Chicago.
The day that I spoke, we did our pre-event. I reached out to Graham immediately. Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely. So already on it, sis. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So in 30 seconds, let's do this, panelists. What we like to do, if each of you can give either one takeaway or one call to action that you'd like to share with everybody listening right now while we wrap this up. One takeaway or one call to action that you want to leave them with. We'll start with you, Dustin.
Well, the takeaway is, I hope you're energized. I hope the takeaway from this is, wow, like there's action to be taken, things to be done. But more than anything, be bold. Take a leap, take a step. Because when you have that's the power of the network. That's the power of having people that can support you and push you forward. So we are all going in the right direction. And if there's something you want to do, you know, me being in commercial real estate and then going into the prop tech sector, I don't think I'd have the ability to do that if I didn't have so many great people to support me and to allow me to take the challenge and help move commercial real estate and the tech forward. So be bold and receive help when it's offered, and ask, like, put it out there, ask somebody for the conversation to talk. So, but thank you so much for putting this on.
Absolutely. Can we go to you next, Julie? And I do want to mention Alicia also had her hand up, which I missed. I do apologize. And Joe. So once they're finished with their takeaways, then we'll get to you two. Okay. Thank you so much.
I'll be brief. In fact, I'll yield my time to them so they can say what they had to say. But I just appreciate this conversation. The more of these conversations we have to expose people to things that maybe they haven't seen. maybe events they haven't been to. So I applaud you for having this educational session, and I look forward to having more of these to help people get into commercial real estate.
Kim?
Definitely. So can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
I can't even hear myself in here for a minute. So what we're actually going to do is at this point, we're actually just going to close out the live, but we are going to keep you guys online for a couple moments so we could get to Alicia and Joe's question on the topic. So before doing so, I'm passing the mic right back to you, Sean, so you could close us out the live. And then we're going to, if you guys still have time, hold tight, and we're going to take a couple more questions, if that's okay with everyone. You're okay with that?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Sean.
We good. We got one more minute left that we can actually hear Kim's response to that last takeaway or call to action, and then we'll go ahead into that after set.
Mine is brief. Lift as you climb. Let that sink in.
That's it.
Sink it in, sink it in. Thank you guys so much for joining us in respect of your time. For those who want to stay on, we will definitely be here. We're closing out the live, but we will be linking, as Kim Pink just coined. I like that. Make sure you linky with everybody.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us live on another episode of Powerhouse U. We're going to hold tight a little bit and have a private session with the panelists and let them talk a little bit more to the people that were actually in the room with us asking the Q&As and here now. So once again, Sean, Jacqueline, we thank you. We appreciate you. We will be coming at you again with another panel real soon. We'll be mentioning the topic online on LinkedIn next week. So yes, I'm Jacqueline Harris on LinkedIn. Tell people how to find you real quick, Sean, and I will tag everyone else in the live video so they can know how to find them.
Same way, LinkedIn, I'm Sean R. Pinkston or SR Pinkston Realtor, any and everywhere you can find me. Can't wait to see what our next panelist is going to be. I know what it is, but we're titling it because we've got so much to pack into it, like Kim keeps saying. But stay tuned, follow us, link with us, subscribe to us. You won't be disappointed. Thanks. God bless.